Now we're returning to assembly business, and I would like to invite our Vice President, Nancy Nagel, to come give her report.
Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Nagel, Vice President of the Central States Synod. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Synod Council and the work done on your behalf this last year. The Synod Council carries out the decisions made at Synod Assembly and conducts the business of the Synod between assemblies. Members currently are Bishop Susan Candia, who serves as chair, Scott Schulte, who has been our treasurer for many years, Reverend Chad Langdon, our secretary, and members Tolia Hamilton, Reverend David Frericks, Julie Barstow, Reverend Zach Sturm, Alicia Rocha, Logan Simon, Reverend Tina Reyes, and Richard Ashley. Dallas Rakestraw and Mindy Tilburg also. And they are ending their service having served 2 full terms. And we thank them. So one of our duties as the Synod Council is to develop a budget to support our Synod mission, and overseeing that budget through a review of financial reports at each of our meetings. And you had that presented to you and voted on earlier. But again, I just want to point out a few emphases. Again this year, as Treasurer Scott Schulte informed us, it was necessary to reduce our planned expenditures due to continued decreasing revenues. The decrease is almost exclusively from decreased congregational giving. This isn't anything new. You've heard this. Synod staff have worked tirelessly to make the office of bishop run efficiently over the past several years. I want you to know they work harder and they work smarter. But there are only so many technical changes to be made in response to this adaptive challenge. How will our Synod and our bishop carry out their constitutional duties in the coming years? What resources from within and outside of our structure will we bring to bear to carry out our mission? These are difficult questions, but I ask you to consider them, and we must attempt to answer them. Renewed by the Spirit, we will tackle them together. The focus of the Synod Council's work over the past 18 months has been the transition from Bishop Candia to her successor. Bishop Candia announced her retirement in January of 2024, allowing plenty of time for the Synod Council to form committees to carry out the election and transition. She offered assistance in that of the Synod staff every step of the way. And I also want to thank Kathy Hole from Atonement Lutheran in Florissant, Missouri. She led the discernment and election committees skillfully and gracefully. So we actually began preparing for the bishop's election at last year's Synod Assembly. If you were here, you might remember we gathered in discernment groups, listening to the Holy Spirit with questions about the needs of the Synod, its congregations, and its communities. And then Synod Council members shared their views of the Synod's mission priorities and the critical skills needed by the next bishop. Many hours of work, many, in person and through Zoom meetings, resulted in the process that you are now taking part in for the bishop's election. And even while these detailed plans and procedures have been put in place, they were balanced with stepping aside and making room for the movement of the Holy Spirit in our meetings and within our gathered assembly, always grounded in the knowledge that God is preparing and lifting up the next bishop of our Synod. This election is not the end. although many people working on it are glad to see it come to completion. But it's not the end, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of a new term of office on September 1st with a new person in that office, but also the beginning of new relationships, new expectations, new opportunities, challenges, and adventures. It's a time to ask the tough questions of ourselves and of our next bishop. I want to emphasize, no matter who serves in the office of bishop or who sits in the State House or the White House, the work of the church goes on. Our broken world needs us and our proclamation of mercy, grace, and justice now more than ever. Because we are renewed by the Spirit, Lutherans in the Central State Synod have brought mercy, grace, and justice to the world in large and small ways through our ongoing ministries and through direct responses. I'd like to share a few of those stories to wrap up my report. Renewed by the Spirit, when a tornado ripped through the city of St. Louis on May 16th, congregations and leaders in the Eastern Missouri Conference immediately organized relief efforts to provide essential items, food, and comfort. St. Philip's Evangelical Church was the center for these efforts on the north side of St. Louis. Pastor Richard Ashley and Terrence Freeman, who also serve on the Synod Council, are leading the way in meeting physical and spiritual needs. Renewed by the Spirit, our Mission Endowment Fund awarded grants of $14,500, fully funding each individual request to support daycare for low-income families in Camdenton, Missouri, weather relief for unhoused persons in Washington, Missouri, and to support the work of Lutherans Restoring Creation across the Synod. Renewed by the Spirit, members and friends of Peace Lutheran in Washington, Missouri spoke out. They spoke truth to power at a city council meeting against a proposed ordinance that was targeted at the church to shut down overnight shelter for unhoused people within the city. And perhaps most importantly, renewed by the Spirit, you and I and you and you and everyone here, each of us, will go back to our congregations, our communities, and out into the wider world, ready to join God's reign of justice and radical love for the world. Thank you.